Welcome to Travel Around the Block. Join Joel, Mike, and their guests as they explore how Web3 and AI are reshaping the way we journey, invest, and connect across the globe. This episode is sponsored by Lumo. Powered by AI, Lumo makes it possible for travelers and travel managers to predict, avoid, and manage flight disruptions. Visit thinklumo.com.
All right, welcome back to Travel Around the Block, where we spotlight innovators around the world that's reshaping the world we travel. Today, we're excited to welcome a true innovator in corporate travel technology, Roy Bolden, the CEO and co-founder of Travelin.ai. Roy's journey is nothing short of inspiring. A founder with grit and hustle and a keen eye for solving real-world problems. He launched Travelin.ai to solve business travel complexities and to enable a unified workflow for booking blended business and leisure travel. Under his leadership, Travelin.ai is streamlining corporate travel, making it smarter, faster, and more personalized than ever before. The future of business travel, quoted by Amadeus, the most innovative startup by WTM in London, nominated for Best Product Design by Skift. These are some of just the industry recognition Travelin.ai has received in the last few years. So today we'll dive into his entrepreneurial story, the challenges of building a travel tech startup, and his bold vision for the future of corporate travel, as well as their most recent success, which we're going to get into, which is a major partnership with one of the world's largest global distribution systems. Whether you're a frequent flyer or just passionate about travel tech innovation, you won't want to miss this episode. So let's give a warm welcome to Roy Bolden. Welcome to the show, Roy.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Joel. Thank you so much for having me here on the podcast. It's an honor. And Mike, you've done an amazing introduction, a great pitch. You do it better than I do. You might as well take over.
That was my startup elevator pitch for you.
Yeah, pretty good, man. I'm going to write it down and use it.
Just for the audience, you and I, we've known each other for quite a while. A few years ago when you joined Plug and Play's Travel Accelerator program and won the Hustler Award, because backstory, I think we had told you that there was going to be a travel management meeting that a bunch of travel management companies going to be at in San Francisco. And I think you were still in Norway, in Oslo at the time.
I was.
And without hesitation, you're like, I'm there. So I think you flew straight over, missed a lot of night sleep with the whole jet lag and everything. And we met you in San Francisco and you killed it. And I think you had gotten some pretty fruitful meetings and interaction out of that too. So that's very rare because sometimes when you travel internationally, you have to juggle so many things and you really taken basically every opportunity that was exposed to you. So that was really amazing to see.
I did promise that, right? When I joined Plug and Play, I said, whatever opportunity you guys throw at me, I will take it. And then he said, there's going to be a 20-minute slot to present to potential customers. And I flew over. I think it took me 24 hours to fly over. But the worst thing was I got a seat next to the toilet door and I couldn't recline for 13, 14 hours. I was like, and then when I got there, when I presented, and then somebody said, yeah, Roy flew over for the 20-minute meeting. And then, I don't know, I was thinking it, but I said it loud. And I said, oh man, it better be good. And the whole room heard what I said. And they just broke out in laughter. That was an amazing experience. Yeah, and we got one customer, which is Safe Harbor, from that meeting. And then been with us since. They've been the first one who signed up. And it was an amazing opportunity. And there's a couple still that we're working on as well. But yeah.
So with that, I think it will be great for us to take a few steps back and really get to know you before the Travelin.ai. So really wanted to see if you could share a little bit of your personal journey, your story of how you got into, before you got into Travelin.ai, your entrepreneur spirit and what you saw in terms of this opportunity before you kicked off and started Travelin.ai. So maybe just a little bit about that, where you're coming from. I know you're based in Oslo. Norway right now.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yeah, based in Oslo, Norway. I grew up in Germany, in Hamburg, and then a few years in the US. So my whole family, they're all Americans and Canadians. And I worked for Cisco Systems for 11 years. I was a technology sales lead for the Benelux and Nordic market. And we acquired a company called Meraki, which was based in San Francisco. I needed to go out there and see what we have actually bought so I can represent it in our region. And I said, why don't you guys send me out for a 2-week new hire training so I get everything taught. And I did that. And we just had our daughter. She was 3 months old. And then I tried to add we were using, I believe, Neo. So by American Express. I was trying to add my wife and my daughter to the trip, and I wasn't able to do that. I was like, why? And I was in sales, and I was thinking sales. I was like, why wouldn't Amex allow that? Like, they're leaving several $1,000s here on the table, right? And then, so I spent like a good couple hours on the phone with the wife, plan a trip. And then several hours doing expense management to separating my cost between what is business and what is leisure. And I was like, hey, you know, that I'm sure I'm not the only one with this issue here, right here. And then also sat with the guys, with a few of my friends around the round table, and we were like, what is your main problem where you spend your most of the time on? And everybody came down to travel. How much time do you invest on selecting the right hotel when you're going on a leisure trip? And I was like, oh, interesting. I was like, why don't we make a tool for consumers to use with AI? And then one of the guys around the round table, he's an AI specialist and a backend specialist. And he was like, we were discussing, I was like, why don't we make a tool where it helps you to make decisions in seconds which hotel to stay at based on the criteria you have, right? I think the study shows when you're booking a hotel for leisure, you're looking up somewhere around 36, 40 different websites until you decide which hotel you go for. And so we build a whole business plan regarding creating an AI solution for consumers to help them to make decisions on hotel booking. And then we took it to a very famous investor here in Norway, which is the investor behind Kahoot, for example, right? And many other successful businesses. And he looked at it and he was like, no, you got to, we were like so proud presenting it around. He's like, thank you, and no. So that was like the initial reaction. And then he was like, no, I need you guys to go and convert this into B2B, not B2C. So I was like, okay, interesting. We walked out, and then I spent 4 or 5 months doing full-time research on what is actually business travel, right? And then what we did is we interviewed, I think, like around 40, 50 business travelers, hour and a half each. We went through all the research papers and a lot of research papers from consulting firms, also a lot from Expedia, a lot from Amadeus, from Deloitte, McKinsey, and so on. And we identified like the main pain points. And then what we did is to prioritize the main pain points. And then what we did was to design the solution, visual design, right? And we took it back again to the same sources, saying, hey guys, will this actually solve your problem? And based on the feedback, we made design adjustments. And then after getting their approval, then we built it. We started the technical integration. And still today, that is our approach. Bottom up is our approach. And that approach allowed us to be very unique. And that allowed us to have a 90% closing rate on the first demo.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a really high engagement rate.
To replace like legacy platforms, let's say.
Yeah.
And for us, the customer is not the procurement director. It's not the business. It's the employee, right? Mm-hmm. So everything is built around the employee. And we wanted to take a step back. We see that current tools with the technology that they have built, with the theme they have built, is almost dictating to the employee how you should use the platform. This is our tool that we have built, and you live your life around that. But where we look at, like, step back, look at how people live, work, and travel, and then build an architecture, build a service on top of it which reflects that, not the other way around. I think a lot of competitors get that wrong. Like, they're the boss. We are not the boss. We're doing this for them, not the other way around, right? And so the architecture has to be flexible with that theme. The architecture needs to be flexible enough to accommodate for changes in travel patterns and service offerings accordingly. So where we see very clearly in the industry that competitors have stacked the technology on top of each other all the way high up, like a nice skyscraper, where we then build it in smaller units. So we can take in and take out what we need and make changes accordingly. And we can do that extremely fast, right? With the partner that we're going to announce soon, we had one of the world's fastest integrations. We did it in weeks where other people, I think we did it within 6 weeks where other take several months or a year and a half.
Wow, that's great. I'm sure we're gonna dive in
Sure.
deeper on that front as well. But I love founding story, if you will, because in terms of having no experience really in
No.
travel tech, right? You have this personal experience, this
Yeah.
personal problem, if you will, that was the genesis of this idea.
Sure.
Hey, I want to blend my business travel with leisure travel. I want to bring my family with me. And you have to go through basically different tools make that happen. There's a lot of headaches, friction, technology barriers, etc. So you saw that opportunity through your personal problem lens to
Yes.
go ahead and create almost mock-up in a way to demo this solution before you actually built that from ground up. Is that my understanding?
You're absolutely right. Correct.
Yeah.
That was
And then you were actually focused on a B2C perspective, the initial product.
the
But
initial product
then,
was 100% B2C. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And
And
you
we had to
had,
pivot.
it is also fair to say, based on what you just said, is that you basically had no experience in travel management companies, corporate travel booking tools, etc. You had to literally do a deep dive to really understand, learn that,
Yes.
so that you can come up with Travelin.ai.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah, we needed to ground from the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's also a level of naivety required. All right. As a founder, when you're going in any large space, I guess, that you're not familiar with, if I knew how complex the technology is, or not complex as far as the people made it that complex, and so backwards is, I think, is the right way of defining how the technology is built and how it's accommodating for the world of travel to work, I would have never gone in. It is,
Yeah.
if I knew that beforehand, if I would have never done this, never.
So almost the takeaway is that it's okay to jump in blind. Maybe sometimes that's better because then you could just overwhelm on the complexity, whatever solution or problem that you're trying to work on, right?
Correct. It is
So
extremely overwhelming.
because online booking tool, it's a pretty big travel category, and there's a lot of incumbents in there on the leisure side, on the corporate side. So when you went into this, did you look at the marketplace and was like, wow, there's some Goliath in here. I'm going to be like the Davids versus the Goliath. Was there any thought in, how can I compete in this? Or were you looking at these guys are big cruise ships and they're going to be moving really slow and leveraging, let's say, for example, AI as a technology or solving customer pain points, etc.
Yeah.
And you're like the speedboat as an early stage startup. So you're going to be able to move faster. Was that like, what was the particular decision-making skill in saying, here's this problem, this is how big the problem is, these are the players in this problem, I think we can do better?
I looked at the industry and I saw how big they are. And it was like, you have your American Expresses, you have your, back then, Agencia, which was still not owned by American Express yet. And then you have Sidetrick and Concur. I remember Travel Park Navan was raising crazy amounts. And then I was like, yeah, it is. Even we're not competing directly with Navan, we're helping the travel management companies to compete with Navan and with Travel Park. But it was so huge, it was quite overwhelming. But I thought to myself, we're going to implement one strategy. And it is very high risk strategy, but it's only one. And I was like, either this is going to work or it's not going to work, the strategy. We just have to take a risk on the strategy. And the strategy was, it is, as you said, there's many online booking tools, corporate booking tools, and so on. So I said, there's only one way to win this, and that's investing everything we have, time, efforts, and funds, into unique differentiation points, multiple unique differentiation points. And so when you get on the demo, you see how big the differences are, that you can see where this is going, that it is so different, then it will grab your attention and you want to give it a chance, right? I think for us, not being from the industry was the number one success criteria.
Yeah,
Right.
I could imagine that it's fairly refreshing for Joel was leading innovation at CWT. I think during the time you were part of the accelerator program, Plug and Play as well. And Joel and I, we worked together when we were at CWT as part of the innovation team. So one thing that when I first learned about you, just to give a personal take, is I thought it was about time. It was super refreshing because I used to travel a lot for business. And I always try to blend it. If I'm going to go somewhere for a few weeks for work, I try to add up maybe a few days ahead or at the tail end of my work travel, because I like to experience new places, new culture, new food, etc. And you go into a TMC tool to do the booking, and sometimes you're just like, okay, different mindset in terms of your selection process because it's a corporate business trip. And then you go into leisure side, which you obviously can do at the time with some of the tools that's available at the time, right? And you have to go into your Expedias, your different leisure booking engines and so forth. So it's a separated process. But going back to what you said earlier, when you were looking at corporate travel and you're deep diving into and identifying these pain points, were all these pain points something that resonated with you, A? And then B, are they the main ones that when you say, hey, here's our main differentiator, were they aligned to these pain points?
That's how we build the differentiators, right? So parallel. So one was, if I had to categorize the first three, it was a terrible UX UI experience, right?
Yeah.
So many steps on booking a flight, right? And that they need to be trained on how to book a flight. That is just insane to us. It's absolutely crazy.
You mean the employees?
Rory,
the training is only 4 weeks long, so I'm not sure what you're.
There you go. So yeah. It's absolutely insane to us. Like on a B2C platform, using Expedia, you don't need a training. You just go ahead and you book it. So why should it be on a corporate travel platform any different?
Yeah. For listeners that doesn't really travel on business, we're not really sure exactly what you mean by training. Can you elaborate? What training are you referring to?
When you launch a corporate travel platform, each of the employees needs to be trained on how to use the corporate travel platform. And we say, if you need to train on our platform, on Travelin.ai, we have failed. That is absolute failure.
So you're referring to more like the product feature functionality training, exactly. Like where to go to do this and that.
Yeah, exactly. So if we need to train people on how to book a flight, we are completely failed. Done. So for us, the number thing, going back again to your question regarding the pain points, one was the UX and UI experience, right? So it usually is 6-7 pages until you have booked your flight. With us, it's 3 clicks right now. It's a maximum of 3 clicks. Soon it's going to be one motion. So it's going to be, right now it's like maximum of 15 seconds, and soon it's going to be between 3 and 5 seconds. And then the travel management companies, it takes them on average, depending which legacy platform they use, but around 2 weeks to launch end customer. And our platform, they use 2 minutes.
Gotcha. So first pain point, incumbent tools are not intuitive.
No.
And there's a lot of frustration as well, potentially, because it's not intuitive. So that's the first thing you solve, is just to make the product kind of very easy to use.
Correct. As simple as that. Just like this, when we just demo the simplicity of a pure business booking, the customer has already opted in. Like mentally, they're like, gotcha. Because what we're selling is time, right? Either you're going to spend 20, 30, 50 minutes, 1 minute, 1 hour on booking a trip, or you're going to spend 15 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then the second thing what we saw was combining business and leisure. And that's also both of the pain points, the UI experience and combining the business and leisure. It really drives the leakage. And with the leakage, what we mean with that is employees opting out to use the corporate booking tool. They will use leisure platforms.
You mean in terms of not just booking for their leisure part of the trip?
No, just a pure business part.
Business part of the trip. They're booking outside of the designated travel management company's tool.
Correct. They will book it on Expedia.
Yeah.
They will book it.
I have to say, I've done that before.
Exactly. Of course you will. Of course. And I totally understand it. So what happens, like if they're booking outside? First, the business is a duty of care issue, right? The business lose visibility of where the employee is. God forbid something goes wrong. Second, they lose the bargaining power, the business, when in negotiating volume-based deals with suppliers, hotels, and airlines. So as everything within travel is about volume. As higher the volume, bigger power you got. So it really comes down to using a platform that employees would like to use. And then it creates, for the larger corporations, it creates immigration risks, taxation risks, IP risks. So it is a bigger issue, these kind of risks for the bigger companies as we're going along. So when it comes to that, is like first the objective is stop the leakage. The second part was combining business leisure, which is on average right now globally 50 to 55% of businesses combined with leisure. It was actually report out a couple of years ago on the Wall Street Journal, the blended travel, the pleasure part of blended travel, saved American Airlines of bankruptcy.
Really? Okay. Wow.
Yeah. That's how significant it is. So in the US, it's between 50 to 55%, especially because in the US, the average holiday is 2 weeks. So when they do a business trip, they really want to get something out of it, right? And in Europe, it's also around 50 to 55%, but in different countries in Europe, it differs quite significantly. Like in Germany, is also around 50%. In the UK, it's around 25%. So it really depends which countries you're in on the blended travel. The third pain point was they want to have access to nice hotels.
Who doesn't?
Exactly. So we make sure that we offer a diverse range of hotels from not a single source, but multiple sources.
Gotcha. How did you guys go about doing that to get more inventory?
Oh, good question. Because one of the inventories that we got is like a non-GDS, so it doesn't belong to Amadeus or Sabre or Travelport. It was completely standalone, but it was one of the leading solutions out there. Usually they're like, we don't give these kind of contracts out, guys. Like, but we love your concept so much that we're going to give you that contract with a big spending limit. And I was like, fantastic, amazing. So they were very gracious to us, very kind to us. And that was hotel beds. So they were very kind. And
all right. Shout out to hotel beds.
A shout out to hotel beds all the way. Went with them.
And I'm assuming they're still part of the inventory within.
Part of it, core of it, and of the inventory. And they done also hotel beds. A quick plug here for hotel beds. They've done also a great job on how they provide the hotel content. So they have separated the hotel content per room, where even it's very difficult to replicate that experience with on the GDS side, right? So per room, you can see the pictures and the breakdown of the rooms. So like what you're experiencing in the B2C experience. So it's been great. And we built a lot of our UI, UX experience based on what hotel beds actually has done.
Gotcha. So you're able to provide almost both consumer level content and inventory, but also consumer level booking experience.
Correct. Exactly.
So, yeah, I love that because I have so many, we can probably talk about this and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but I have so many business travel stories using booking tools. And I'll give you one really interesting one. So I got outside of the corporate booking tool because it was clunky and I didn't get the type of routes and the hotels and so forth that I knew that existed because I'm well aware of different travel content that's out there. I used the leisure booking travel provider and I found better routes, shorter travel time, better product, and much better pricing as well. So in my head, I'm thinking, I'm saving the company money. This flight it's better for me, and it's $300-400 cheaper. And instead of like premium economy, it's business class. So I went ahead and booked it. But afterwards, when you're doing your expenses, and they do a little bit of an audit and they catch it and they're like, hey, how come you didn't book it? So that's exactly the problem you're solving is if an employee doesn't have that kind of frustration and poor user experience, then there is no leakage. And then they could cover everything in there. Because before you even brought it up, and I didn't really think about it too much, is duty of care, travel safety, volume, and so forth. Those are the things that the company need to consider when they work with the TMCs. Right. The actual employees, when they book travel, they don't really think about that as much.
But the average employee will not think about it. But also, there's always a bigger picture, say, especially for the bigger organizations. Yes, if you book outside, you might get it cheaper. Correct.
Yeah.
But the bigger enterprise clients, they get such a huge kickback at the end that it will make up for that gap and then some.
Yeah.
And then also, I think for individual booking outside, then you have to also think about your own time that you have to spend to the expense management. Is it more than $300-400 that you saved? Risk, you take paying it with your own credit card. So you have to also see how much is your own time worth.
Good point. Yeah, for sure. So when you talk about the problems that you recognize, how you approached it, the design intention to make things, to solve these pain points.
Yeah.
You tackle that, obviously. You guys are tracking. We'll talk about the major success win that you guys had recently as well, but the traction is definitely there. the fruit of the labor in the past few years has come to fruition. So if you were like looking at the industry right now, putting on the Roy Golden 3 years ago hat on, if you will,
Sure.
what are some of the major areas that you still see are gaps? I know you probably want to be careful on if there's any type of product roadmap or any additional areas that you're looking at, but just like maybe overarching review of corporate travel in this space. Are there anything that you're looking at that traditional TMCs may not have visibility on or might not be aware of or just may not be looking to, that could be an opportunity?
I think it's a couple of things. One is you need to step back and look at it from a holistic picture, right? Everything within corporate travel and travel general, it is so chopped up, all the solutions, right? Like it will scare you how many parties it takes to book a hotel. When I understood that, I was like, this cannot be real. Really? You need 4 or 5 players to book a hotel? So I think you need to step back to look at it from a holistic view and see how you can improve the end-to-end experience overall and how can you automate it overall. And there's major gaps, right? Between the TMCs, their mid-office. I had no clue what the hell mid-office is. And then, or back office. I'm like, I got to a TMC meeting and they're like, so which back office are you connected to? I was like, what is a back office? Because we built a lot of the capabilities from a back office already into the tool. Not all of it, a lot of it. We didn't know because we're not from the industry. Because for us, it's so logic. Why wouldn't you do that in the booking tool? Why wouldn't you have the back office in the booking tool? So I think you need to step back and look at it from a bigger picture and how can you automate from the beginning to the end, right? Payment, right? Completely is extremely fragmented, depending on what you want to book, flight, hotel, car rental, whatever it is, different payment solutions in one OBT for the same thing, right? So I think the holistic part is like, and that's what we want to do is to exactly do that, step back, look at the main pain points within that value chain. What kind of solutions can we provide to improve that experience? So again, something that I didn't know is most of the booking tools, almost all booking tools, their reporting is built for the TMC, but not for the customer, right? Not for the end customer. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, is it? So we built a lot of booking tools, a lot of booking and reporting tools for the end customer. And that's apparently unique. And in my head, that's not unique at all, but it is apparently unique.
Yeah, I think so. Joe, right? I think when we were talking about Travelin.ai and Roy, and one of the things that you mentioned was like, because he's from Norway, is there like a Nordic design aesthetic to what he's doing? And maybe that's what he's talking about right now is like when he's looking at these pain points and then looking at the solution design perspective, how to like really just simplify and make things intuitive.
Yeah, to that point, Mike, first of all, Roy, I just love the freshness of the take. The way you're looking at it is so fresh and so original and so thoughtful. And I just love that. Do you think that does stem from where you are in the world, being in the Nordics? And do you think, is there such a thing as forgive my ignorance, but is there a Nordic design aesthetic? And do you think that's part of your success or secret sauce? Can you comment on that?
Absolutely. I think the one, it is a Nordic design because the design is Nordic, he's Swedish. So by default, yes. But we wanted to introduce the simplicity of it, right? So there is no noise. There is no push upsell capabilities. Everything is a choice, not a must, right? So yeah, absolutely. And I think also going also into your initial question, Mike, that's why we are not only like travel tech, but we also introduced the fintech part as well to solve one of those payment issues, right? So some of the latest solutions that we have now implemented is what the CFOs told us when we are showing the tool to the CFOs is that they do not have a visibility of the upcoming invoice. How much do you own? How much have they booked on the upcoming invoice? So what we did is to build an invoice dashboard where we can show in real time the upcoming invoice in the time period that the TMC customer have agreed upon. right? So if they're going to get an invoice every 2 weeks, it shows those invoice period 2 weeks with all the booking and cost related to that invoice. So we won maybe 15, 20 deals against some of the global legacy platforms just for the invoice dashboard.
Wow.
Just cost
Just for that.
control. Just control.
Yeah. That visibility, I'm sure it helps them with everything from budgeting to forecasting.
Everything. So that was quite, again, shocking to us, but logic. And then I think the second thing, going back to your question, is what I see is travel behavior. It's like when an employee books, I pick up the phone, I call the employee. Right? Not every time, but sometimes I pick up the call. Or when we go for reviews, I talk to the employees. It shocks me on how they want to travel.
How so, right?
Like the way they want to travel and where booking tools are today, there's like worlds apart. I would say we are the most flexible corporate travel platform out there right now. But I think the current CEOs or owners of OBTs, they only sell to procurement directors. They only sell to the business, right? They don't touch the employee, right? Because it doesn't matter because the employee is not the one paying for it. But if they would know how big the gap is, that's where we then come in to close that gap on how the employee actually wants to travel. It will shock you. Like they want to fly from Oslo to London, hang around, go for business, then take the plane from London, go to Miami, have a little bit of fun, personal time, come back again to London, have another meeting, and then fly back home. And one of the tricks, on one of the flights, they want to take somebody with them, a non-employee with them. It's like a orchestra of travel behavior, right?
I love that phrase. That's an incredible. I feel like, Roy, you're pointing to a bit of a Copernican revolution in how people think about travel, and you're really making the first thought. And maybe the very phrase "end user" is part of the problem because it contains the phrase "end." How does that go over with CFOs when you're trying to make an enterprise sale? Does the traveler centricity resonate with them, and do they get why that's a win not only for the traveler but for them as an enterprise?
As long as you can connect it to a number,
yeah,
then that captures their attention.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to the control part of it and how the invoicing could be structured. Because if a system cannot take invoicing structure in a very specific way, it means a lot of manual work on the other side. To be very specific, and several CFOs said, per invoice, it costs me about $120, $150 to process it.
That's crazy.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. I mean, just going back again to your question, Joel, it's with the CFOs, it's all about cost control, right? So as long as I can formalize on how their employees want to travel, and leakage on how that leakage will affect them, it's very straightforward. I think the easiest ones to pitch to, position to, is at CFO level, actually.
Yeah. It's interesting too, if you think about, there are so many aspects of cost, and some of them are subtle and some of them are more overt. But if you think about the costs in terms of productivity, that's relatively quantifiable. But what about the cost of morale, talent retention? If you think about an OBT, that's a drag on every single top performer enterprise-wide globally who's experiencing this experience that's painful and time suck and dragging them away from everything that they're actually wanting to be focused on in terms of their actual job function. It's actually almost staggering if you think about the implications of some of the status quo and how costly it can be. Do you see it that way, or is that overstated?
No, absolutely. We have actually built a calculator showing them, we ask them, like, how long does a booking take today?
Yeah.
How many bookings do you guys do per year? What is the average salary? And then we can really associate that usage to a number, productivity number, and then saying how much they will spend it on our platform and connect that to the exact same numbers. And then you can see that huge spike in productivity increase in that dollar amount saved.
Yeah, I love the fact that you guys came up with this KPI to demonstrate the value prop right? Because a lot of times you can say, this is an awesome tool, this is easy to use and so forth. But sometimes at the end of the day, when you have demonstrable metric to be able to say, here's some of the savings or time reductions and so forth, and really having that backed up, you guys developed the tool to be able to report that. I think that's pretty amazing to do.
I think also going back again to your question, Joel, regarding attracting and retaining talent, that's why we also want the travel management companies to have a different discussion with their end customers. Right now, they're talking about business travel. Yeah, every single travel management company can't talk about business travel, right? So that means, how do you differentiate yourselves? Everybody has great customer service and everybody pitches great customer service, right? So I always tell the customer service, the travel management companies, if your value can be put into an Excel file, we have failed.
I love that. Go on, Roy, but sorry, that soothes something in me that has long been in pain. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'm happy you're happy. And what I say to them is, let's change that conversation. Let's create a value add layer where they cannot put you in Excel sheet, right? So let's talk about attracting and retaining talent. A company must make money. The only way it can make money is with talent, right? That's every end customer. So the way we help them to, of course, attract and retain talent, especially first on the retaining part, is combining the business leisure, of course, improves the employee experience. One of the end customers, he put it perfectly. He says, if we are able to enabling them to combine the business and leisure trip, and they take their wife with them, and they have an amazing experience in Paris, and they come back with an emotion, they will tell their colleagues, they will tell their friends. He said, it doesn't matter how much money we put in marketing, what a great employer we are, that feedback with that person is priceless.
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes towards every company that talks about work-life balance. And if you provide a tool that enables a better work-life balance, then that talks towards the talent retention part as well. So
exactly. And then also is what we also wanted to do, what we saw from the numbers is when it comes to attracting talent. In Europe, I don't know the cost in the US, so you guys have to share that with me if you know it. The average cost of attracting and retaining talent in Europe is around 50,000 euros. So around $55,000. Yeah. Yes. And of course, when you're an employee, you're looking for a new employer. You care about what the employer does and the value you create for that employer, what you will be doing. But the third thing to look for is experiences, right? And the number one thing within experience is travel, right? So that means the travel industry holds the secret, you could say, or the biggest tool in their hands to help businesses to attract and retain talent, but they don't do anything about it.
Yeah, right? Roy, I think I've heard that it costs about 1.5 times to replace anyone. And even bigger than replacement is just, who are you attracting? Who are you retaining? And if you think about the amplification of that across N hires, it's actually mind-boggling. It's funny, I laughed so hard when you mentioned the Excel spreadsheet, and just to talk about that for a second, I almost wonder if part of the problem is that our industry is always looking at reality in Excel terms, we're looking at reality one cell at a time. So it's like we're focused on this piece of the puzzle, then we look at the next piece and then the next piece, and our eyes are always and only inside one cell, or maybe the combination of a couple cells. And I feel like what I'm hearing you imply a little bit is that there might be levels of connectivity and insight that maybe have gone undiscovered for a long time in this industry. Maybe collectively we should all be grateful that you came and took a fresh look. Just put the hat to you for that.
Thank you, Joel. Let's come back to that point, what you just mentioned.
Yeah, and it's funny. And happy to hear anything you have to say to that. But just one example of that might be, and it might be very relevant, and we've lightly touched on it, but that division between business and leisure, you started, as Mike pointed out, you started out with a very direct experience, and it's something everyone can relate to. I have a need to travel for business. I would like to take my wife and child. Very human, very relatable, very natural. And who could argue with it? And yet the entire edifice of corporate travel has been set up to pretend that right now you are a business traveler and only a business traveler. You have no context. And if you think about it from an AI perspective, which I note is in your company's name,
Yes, sure.
the context is rather important to AI, and we're pretending as an industry that there's no such thing as context. I've got your first name, last name, I've got the PNR number, I've got a couple other details. So probably that's all I need to know to make a good trip for you. And I'm being facetious because I suspect there might be just a little bit more insight to be had. And so I guess to bring that to a question, how much sense do you think it makes that the industry has traditionally kept business over here and everything non-business over here as totally separate worlds?
Yeah, I think majority, maybe 95%, they keep it very separate through the presence of those OBTs. Even most of the OBTs don't even have it separate. They don't have the leisure part at all. And I think going back to your initial remark there, I think the problems we have within the industry is our own fault. Yeah.
It's provocative. That's why I'm laughing. Can you elaborate?
Yeah. I think we are comfortable with accepting that things will not work. We are comfortable with the complexity. Since the complexity creates profitability. I talked to a very large global supplier of travel management services and online booking tool. And I said, why wouldn't you guys automate this? It does make zero sense to me why this is not automated. And we were talking about group bookings. And she said to me, we don't automate it because it's profitable for us not to automate it. The customer needs to reach out and we need to do this one by one. So therefore we make more money and therefore we will not automate it.
Wow. What a statement. It's like they're aware of the pain point, but it's a conscious decision to lean towards profitability than making things easier and better.
Absolutely. And then when I talk to the procurement director, I tell them this is your fault. Because you're the one validating this. You have so much power here to steer the direction on how the industry goes. And what you're just doing is just accepting the main players. That's it. So if you don't see innovation, if you're getting a terrible solution, this is your fault. You did this. You and your friends did this. If you go with this player, at least you cannot get fired, even it's terrible experience. Right?
That's that. If people are very risk averse and they're just trying to make the least controversial decision possible,
correct.
Is that a matter of changing their mind, or do you have to just fish elsewhere? How do you deal with that?
You work on them over time.
And how's that going?
Step by step.
And how's that going?
It's going.
Do they make progress?
They make progress.
Meaning the shift in the mind.
Yeah, I think as they see their own end customer profile changing, and the change also that they see from externally, it's happening very fast. Then they're like, okay, we need to do something here. And again, going back to one of the main points is like the TMCs, they don't know how the employees travel, nor majority of the procurement directors, most of them don't talk to the travelers. They just want to achieve specific objectives. So the ones which do, it completely resonates.
Yeah.
Completely. It's such a different discussion.
If you can share, maybe I could imagine why you might not want to share, but to enlighten the industry that we would hope is listening to this, do you want to characterize how the industry's notion of what travel looks like, and then your insight, which is probably about as advanced as it gets in terms of what the actual traveler wants, how they behave, how it actually is for them? You've probably hinted at it, but I wonder if you could just bring that to almost a nub for the audience so they can hear what is that modern traveler and what are they doing? What do they want to do?
The modern traveler want to travel, they want to travel with no limitations. Absolutely no limitations. So it comes down to the flexibility of the corporate booking tool. It comes down to great content, payment, and sharing that experience with loved ones.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you think blended travel is going to be a trend with legs? Is it here to stay? Is it going to grow? And what's driving that? Whether it's growing or shrinking, what's driving that, do you think?
I think there is no such thing as blended travel.
No, I didn't expect you to say that. Can you say why you say that?
I think there's just travel.
Wow. It
And that
sounds like you're
mindset,
suggesting that blended is almost like an industry nomenclature that we're putting our own box on something that you're saying there is no box. It's just
there is no
travel.
box. It's just travel. And it's the responsibility of the technology provider to provide that experience. Period.
Regardless if it's a business travel or leisure travel,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's travel.
it's travel. I travel the way I want to, and it's the job of the technology provider to provide that experience. Done.
I almost feel like, Roy, that maybe I'm getting way too ahead, but I almost feel like the evolution of Travelin AI isn't just going to be a business, corporate, blended leisure travel capability. I feel like that you're alluding to potentially competing with the likes of the OTAs that's out there, because we've seen blended leisure travel was a pretty interesting topic quite a few years ago. There's been a lot of talks because a lot of people see this friction as well. I think it was maybe like 4 years ago when Kayak came out with Kayak Business, trying to capture a piece of the pie in the market on that front as well, to provide, hey, you're used to Kayak from a leisure perspective, and we're going to also open it up for business. I'm with Joel on this one when it comes to being surprised on how you coin, okay, it's just overall travel. And that was a signal to me right off the bat. So this is just like a moment of clarity for me. And maybe I'm getting ahead, but I'm seeing the roadmap a little bit for you guys here.
Yeah, I will respond to that in 1 second. Just want to finish my point with Joel on what he mentioned, what drives that. And I think you asked that as well. And I think COVID did this, right? COVID gave access to everyone with collaboration tools, with video tools, right? And that really was, how sad it sounds, but that was the best thing could have happened to our business, right? Now you want to work from everywhere. Now, the children's are getting a little bit older. They're getting more sophisticated tools to be educated somewhere else. And now it was actually a trend, like you saw a big report, I think it was from NBC or something like that. They published it, how it has skyrocketed, how employees are taking their children with them onto the business travel. That's because of collaboration tools. Yeah. We knew this report just came up a couple of months ago, but we saw this 2 years ago, 3 years ago coming up. And to be able to achieve that kind of not thinking the classic way is the industry, Joel, you've been there for a while, needs to attract and retain, more actually attract talent from different industries.
Yeah.
Not with it.
I think a huge amount of cross-pollination would be very healthy and probably is long overdue. I think there's some, but I think it'd be very helpful for the industry to cross-pollinate talent more than it does currently. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, you're absolutely right. This is the whole entire booking tool for me is just, it's something which needs to be done. All right. But we are going to go somewhere else. Completely somewhere else.
I just want to say, for anyone that's listening to this and not watching it, the video of it, I want to just share the big smile on Roy's face right now. I can see in his mind where Travelin is going to go to, and I can tell that he's pretty stoked and excited about that. So that makes me pretty excited about it as well.
Yeah.
Likewise.
The reason I'm saying that is because we're doing all this boring stuff right now, and I'm totally not excited about it, honestly. It's great, the reaction we get from the people when they see the demo. They want to get on Kraken and want to use it, and it's fine. Great. Well, it's just like the projects we have in the pipeline. That's what excites me, right? Because every single project that we're going to push out is going to increase the gap further and further from what we are today and what others are today. It's going to really change the definition of what is a corporate online booking tool.
Yeah.
Some services are going to be directly connected to travel, yes. Some indirectly connected, and some have no connection whatsoever. And the ones which are absolutely not connected to travel is the ones which excite me the most. Yeah. And that's the beauty you get on creating a very flexible corporate booking tool, which taps into the B2B and into the B2C space with digital profiles, not just of the employees, but the family members. So now you have access to an employee, but you have access to entire families. And the amount of value you can create is endless.
100%. Wow, that's a really cool insight to how you guys are thinking and what you guys are thinking about. Because I don't know, Joel, if you ever thought about TMC is capturing not just the employee, but the family's profile to be able to leverage that.
Right. When you shared that, my head exploded, and I see a very bright world ahead for all of us. I just want to get into the recent amazing news that we've all seen from Roy.
And then just because the name of the company is not Travelin.ai. The name of the product is Travelin.ai. The name of the company is Disrupt Industries.
And that's a great call out.
That's the objective.
That's a great call out.
That's the objective.
That's interesting. And I have to notice that it's not disrupt industry, it's plural, industries.
Correct. Then you can connect that to the other projects coming up.
Very interesting.
I love it. You're tying the name of the company to the ethos, because you guys are definitely making some waves and making some disruptions. And before we get into, obviously we started a little bit on the future of where travel and disruption industries can go towards, but you guys have some major announcements that was made recently with one of the largest global distribution providers that's out there, which is Sabre. So Roy, gotta ask you, how did this engagement come about? What was the evolution of it? Anything you'd like to share in terms of success stories or pain points? Because obviously there's the success at the end of the day. We've all seen the news and the announcements. Tell us how this all happened.
Yeah, absolutely. The first time we met actually Sabre was in Silicon Valley in Plug and Play, which we were very grateful for. We met the entire C-level on site, which was great. And then we received a couple of awards at Plug and Play, which was one of the sponsors was, and of course, Sabre for Hustle of the Year, and then in London for Most Disruptive Travel Tech Award that was also sponsored by Sabre. So we had the first interactions there with the Sabre management team, but that went quiet for a while and we kept on building on our own. And I got a LinkedIn message from the head of UK of Sabre Corporate, which is Richard Viner.
Every founder's dream is when you have a corporate head reach out to you on LinkedIn. Versus the other way around.
Absolutely. That was
But I can just imagine when you looked at that first message from them on LinkedIn, you're like, whoa.
Inbound interest, product market fit.
Yeah, there you go. But I think what actually interests me on Richard, just looking at this, I have not spoken to him before ever, was that he worked for all major competitors. Right?
Oh.
Before
That's interesting.
Before joining Sabre. And that was quite interesting for me that a person like that would actually reach out to us, right? So he knew the market extremely well. He knew the tools extremely well. He worked for all the competitors. So that was quite positive for me, at least. And I showed Richard what we have. He loved it. And then he said, wow, that is very different and very unique. And then he brought in his entire rest of the team to validate, and they loved it as well. And then they brought in 6-7 travel management companies to look at. Got very positive feedback from them as well. And then the reason they actually came to us is because the feedback that,
Roy, in terms of timeline, was this earlier this year that this happened? Like when Richard first reached out?
It was a few months ago. I think it was 10 months ago or something like that. So the reason they actually reached out is because, maybe it was right before. It was 10 months? No, a bit less. It was right before they were selling Get There. Just a few months before that, when we started the first talks. Is it because
early 2025?
So because they said the end users of the travel management companies have provided the feedback that they don't want to use the current solutions any longer. They're looking for a consumer grade platform. And then they asked Sabre to go out and find something. And then they offered us a global contract. And then we launched it about 3 weeks ago. And we made the announcement. And I think really huge kudos to the management team of Sabre, the executive team. They are giants, of course, and to be able to be as innovative or wanting to innovative, having that drive of innovation and wanting to do something different being giants like that and being able to accommodate for a company like ours, a startup like ours, that's really admirable. And they've done it, and they saw, I'm sure they got their initiating of an ROI based on the demand that they see right now when they introduce us to TMCs. Almost every TMC that we are now getting the opportunity to present with post the announcement, we have received amazing feedback and it's progressing extremely well. So I think we will close around maybe also around 80-90% of those opportunities at some point.
That's, first of all, Roy, that's amazing. And congratulations on that, because that's a major achievement, major win. And I don't want to simplify it, but going back, like with the Sabre engagement, is it typical, hey, let's see what you got. Let's go through a proof of concept with some of our customers, see what they think. And then once the stars align, then you guys have that strategic partnership, because you went right into, okay, they saw it. We talked to a few of their TMC customers. Everybody liked it. Boom, signed the strategic partnership. I'm assuming it wasn't that easy.
No, it was that easy.
It was that easy.
Yeah, because when you get on a demo,
you have a great product. It just
sells itself. So we have 100% inbound. Yeah. Yeah, it was that easy.
And you say you have 100% inbound. This is coming from Sabre?
Right now, yeah, from the travel management companies, based on the announcements, all the travel management companies which are reaching out, it was because of the Sabre announcement. And also, Sabre themselves are actively reaching out to travel management companies. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So right now, we will be launching in the US. We will be launching in Australia. We have 2 or 3 in the pipeline in the UK. We just got introduced to one of the largest ones in France. Amazing meeting with them. So it's just happening very quickly.
When you talk about launching with these TMCs, what's the typical from the beginning to go live? How long does that take?
Yeah, with going live right now, we were integrating with Sabre. So we're still finalizing the integration on search and book. So we're done with flight and hotel. We're still finalizing car rental. We have not launched with any of the travel management companies on the Sabre yet. But we have already signed 3 of them in the last 4 weeks. There's several more in the pipeline, like at least 7, 8 in the pipeline.
And then once the TMC date is, once the TMC signs with you guys, from that point to go live, what's the typical timeline look like?
It takes a little bit of time. So this is not from our side so much, but specific contracts need to be signed also on the Sabre side. That takes time between the TMC and the Sabre. And there needs to be internal changes at the TMC side. So it doesn't go that fast as we would like. But what we have definitely enabled is for the TMC to launch their end customers as fast as possible. So within minutes. So as long as we get the opportunity to talk to the TMCs and position it, demo it, we're fine.
Gotcha.
We have waited this long. We can wait a little bit longer.
But from a leisure booking perspective, if I'm understanding you correct, Travelin is in the door from a leisure booking perspective.
Any type of booking. So it doesn't matter what type of booking. So as soon as we have connected them, they're good to go. We're aiming to give production access to the first 2 or 3 travel management companies next week. So that's our aim, that they can test live.
Yeah, awesome. And Roy, I just wanted to echo your congratulations to Sabre and to their leadership, because it is unfortunately occasionally a bit rare to see large organizations in travel take those kind of bold leaps at speed. And I guess one of my favorite phrases, for what it's worth, is take your biggest problem and skip it. And I think sometimes, having worked in the innovation process, it can be very step by step, and you can get almost its own kind of dogma around there must be a POC followed by this, followed by that. And it's always linear, sequential. And it makes me happy to see some intelligent leaps made. If you sense the fit and you just go for it, there's a time and a place to make some audacious.
I think the C-level team was amazing. And also the core team, which drove it with Richard Weiner, been absolutely instrumental. This Sabre deal could have never happened without Richard. And his team, which supported him as well. It's his boss, Richard Abbey, the executive EMEA director, SVPs. So they've been absolutely, everybody played a crucial part to this. It was a buy-in at all levels, which we highly appreciated. really appreciative to the entire Sabre team.
Yeah, I think it's fun for both Mike and me. It's fun to have a chance to put in the spotlight some of the enablers of innovation and people who maybe opened a door or drove a truck through a door, whatever the case, because it's just really cool to see that happen. And sometimes those mindsets are hard to find, and I'm excited that you found such people.
Startups can take it only that far. Then it takes other people to help you to get to the next stage. You can't do it without.
Yeah, agree. And that's one of our goals as well, Joe, is hopefully in the near future episodes, we will not just obviously have interesting startup founders and advisors and investors, but also from the corporate side, right? So anyone that's on the travel innovation team or leading innovation in travel, either be hotels or airlines or airports, etc., can participate in this so that we have multiple lenses that we can view travel innovation from. Because completely agree with you, Roy. Startup can come through a certain way, and some of them can work through the system, if you will. You can think about ones like Uber or Airbnb that kind of penetrated without any kind of engagement on the corporate traditional incumbent side. But certain industry or certain sectors having innovation insights or even leadership that can drive it, and that, I think that's super important. I think we need a lot more of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely do. Yeah, absolutely do.
So, Roy, if you don't mind, now that we're all comfortable and relaxed, let's take a nice, easy topic like AI and the future of travel on whatever time horizon your imagination cares to take us on. But with Mike and I obviously hear a ton about AI and the intersection of travel. But I wondered, love to get your perspective. How important is AI to the future of OBTs in particular? Like for that particular touch point in that piece of technology, is AI a part of the game? Is it the whole game? Is it a sideshow? Is it irrelevant? What is it in the context of OBTs?
AI is vital and will be vital for OBTs going forward. And it was always in our DNA. That's why AI was in our name, registered already a couple of years before AI became a topic. Where we implement AI is in 4 places, 4 different spots. One is preferences, right? Deliver a more customized experience based on preferences for the individual traveler, based on their segmentation of travel behavior. I think you need a lot more data to collect, to provide a very unique preference at individual level. So it's sometimes smarter to be able to collect data on travel types and provide experiences accordingly. So like on blended travel or pure business or pure leisure. The other part where we're going to implement AI is the conversational AI part. And I will touch upon that in 1 second. That's a bigger topic. Another place where we're going to submit, when we're going to implement AI for, is on travel policies and approval processes, especially on the travel policies, to enhance that experience. And the 4th place is payment. When it comes to payment preferences based on the travel type you want to select or opt in for. So all very unique use cases that we have to where we want to introduce AI in. When it comes to the conversational AI, I think where we're focusing on is the blended travel part and not just the business part. The reason behind that is what we think we have the most ROI is the conversational part, is the blended travel, or most use case for it. On our platform, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the call, is 3 clicks to book the business trip. Soon it's going to be 1 motion. So when it comes to the conversational AI, how much faster can you make it? You still have to put in everything you're thinking of or say it in audio format. So is that faster, or you have 1 click or 3 clicks, right? So realistically, we see maybe it pays off more to stay on the UX UA side than pure conversational AI on the business side. But what we see where the conversational AI can have a huge impact is on the blended travel, because it's such a diverse range of travel behavior which needs to be captured, which makes it very difficult to capture that through UX and UI. And that's where a very important part comes in, is how strong is your back end? How flexible is your back end to deliver that AI experience? Your AI is as good as your back end, right? That's why 95% of the AI investments fail, because they don't focus on outcome. They're more interested in using AI, but then actual solving a problem, right? AI is the penthouse, right? The layer on top, beautiful penthouse. But if you look below the penthouse, what's there? If it's falling apart, it's amazing that you have that AI, you can put in whatever you want, but the backend cannot execute it.
Yeah, your plumbing, your electrical, and all that is crap, and you have a gorgeous penthouse, but you can't flush the toilet and turn on the lights.
Exactly. It's so important. So the backend is, of course, vital to the backend, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about large language models and what is feeding in, how it's learning, and so forth. And there's all these partnerships and integration that's happening, because obviously AI, in terms of leveraging it for travel, there's a huge play for that, because it's such a friction pain point in terms of having to research and go through the whole. Because if you look at the traveler journey, right, you have the full inspiration phase, you have the research, and then the booking phase, and all of that, we're seeing AI adoption and AI being used for it. Oh, it's hallucinating and it's giving me fares that doesn't exist, or places that doesn't exist. Obviously, we're in the early stages. It's going to get better. It's going to learn more. And then we're going to get more personalization out of it and so forth. And this is going to be for both leisure and for business. Definitely see that. Yeah, very interesting development and all of that. And love to see where that goes for you guys as well, and how that's being applied. Because at the end of the day, if you have kind of a quote unquote travel agent co-pilot that's going to be able to help you, not just for the booking side of things, but also maybe even the duty of care monitoring type of thing as well, where it's going to be able to give you like awareness of what's going on, where you're going, and then real-time notification, all that. Definitely see that being valuable tools to make our life easier. One thing I want to go back really quickly on, because we have the opportunity to talk to you, Roy, on, especially for a founder in this space that started not knowing anything about corporate travel, that had gone through the phases of learning and then having the grit and the hustle to get to the point where you have this major engagement, this partnership with Sabre. So I think any potential current and or future founders that's going into travel might get a lot of value in learning. You might have advice on for them when they engage with large corporate potential customers. And then on the flip side, what advice would you give to the likes of the Sabre Innovation or other big corporate travel teams, and how they can engage with early stage startups? So what would you say to both sides of the coin there? Maybe pick one or two off the top of your head for each side of the coin.
Yeah, I think on the startup part, I would say there's no magic comment I can make here. It's not like the top three things or whatever. There's one thing and one thing only, is, are you solving a problem? Are you truly solving a problem? I think that it comes down to that. And that's why 95% of AI projects fail, because it's not solving a problem. 95% of businesses fail because they're not solving a problem. Yeah. So it's just like, are you, whatever startup you're doing, are you solving a problem? It comes just down to that. And of course, how big is the problem? That's the second question. But solve a problem that people are ready to pay for.
Yes,
that would be
and it sounds like that's obviously where you started on. It's like you had this personal experience and you're like, okay, there's a problem here. And then diving into the industry to learn about how big the problem is, and therefore giving you the confidence to push into this direction.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, I would stick that. And like also when it comes to your other questions, it's very hard to get partnerships, know that. But the way we have been able to sign multiple partnerships. But I was just thinking about this when I was prepared for this call. It was like all the partnerships we met because somebody else influenced that partner. The way Sabre found us is from a newspaper article. Right. Thank you again on this call on BTN. So they made this everything possible. I have mentioned that multiple times. I want to shout out to BTN as well. We also landed another huge partnership, and that was also influenced by another third party. If other people, other startups are interested to go the partnership route, which is an extraordinary tool to scale, right? Getting to the right people at a fraction of the time. All the meetings that we're setting up, let's say set up by Sabres at C-level, and they're taking out an hour and a half to be with you. That is because of the Sabre name, right? And the amount of resources they have to reach out to these travel management companies. How much money and time do you have to provide that same experience? You don't. That's why the majority of the startups will fail. Their scale strategy is, oh, I'm going to hire all these salespeople. No, that's not my perspective, right? Let's just get to the, you got to get to the right partner who has already established network and presence in the market, who can take you to that meeting right away. Right? Because so it's actually super powerful tool.
Great insights.
Roy, we hope this is yet another drop in the ocean in terms of getting molecules to interact. It'll be fun to see what serendipity we can create through this conversation. Hope it bears tons of fruit for you. In that spirit, Roy, if you don't mind me asking, how can our audience learn more about you, learn more about Travelin.ai, and become part of the party?
I think just go on Travelin.ai, set up a demo, and then we see you at contract.
We'll drop a link in the description, maybe a QR code up here or something like that where they can just scan it. But we'll definitely link it to the website as well. And obviously, if anybody wanted to learn more about Roy Golden, you can look them up on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm sure there's quite a few different articles out there about you already and about Travelin.ai, especially in the recent weeks.
Thank you so much, Joel, Mike.
Yeah, and likewise, Roy, we just wanted to extend our thanks. This has been an absolute delight, and I think you're doing important work that makes a difference in a lot of lives. And so thank you for all that you're doing, and thanks for taking the time to share so generously of your insights. It was truly a pleasure. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. Much appreciate the opportunity to come on your podcast. Looking forward to look at your journey, how you guys are progressing and seeing you're looking at your journey step out of the way. I'll be following it very closely. Thank you once again.
It's amazing to have you, Roy. And hopefully one of these days we can all meet in person in Oslo, Norway. That's on my travel bucket list.
Summer.
But in any case, in the summer, I know you don't it's only when the best time to go is. I'm definitely going to be tapping into you for recommendations and suggestions. You know that. But yeah, absolutely. Roy, this has been awesome. I'm so excited for you, especially seeing where you guys were 4 years ago to where you guys are at now. I just can't be more ecstatic where things are going and to glimpse a little bit of potentially where it's going to be in the next few years. So super excited for you. And I'm sure we'll have you back, especially when you have some pretty cool new announcements to make. We're definitely wanting you to come back on the show as well. Thank you so much, Roy. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for joining Joel and Mike for another episode of Travel Around the Block. If you have any questions or topics you would like to see discussed on the show, or if you'd like to be considered as a potential guest or sponsor, please reach out to us at hello@travelAroundTheBlock.com. And of course, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Wishing you a wonderful day wherever you are around the block.